Good day, everyone. Trainer Maxim with you. Thank you very much for joining me for this episode of my podcast. Today, we're going to discuss a very important topic called perception. As always, I want to thank everyone who supports my channel by watching, commenting, and sharing ideas. Thank you so much, guys and girls. It's greatly appreciated. And also, thank you for super thanks I keep receiving. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you. And if you're new on the channel, please look around, check my other videos, ask questions. I encourage everyone to ask questions if my drills or explanations are not clear enough. I'm also happy to provide more clarifications. Thank you very much. Now let's talk about perception. You might remember that in my last podcast, we were talking about the body awareness, how it was important for the brain to know the exact information about the object we were working with, moving, or the exact information about the shape of your bone you're working with, or the exact information about the environment in which that movement was happening. That information was used by the brain to determine exactly what motor algorithms needed to be extracted from the cerebellum in order to accommodate those movements. Today we're going to talk about the perception, which is slightly different. Perception means that we assume that all the motor algorithms already determined. We know perfectly well how to move the arm, the leg, the torso, and etc. The next task is to assume how to combine those motor algorithms together to produce that or another difficult element. And any element in our life, even walking, is comprised of different motor algorithms, which brain has put together in a certain sequence. And that sequence is determined by your perception. For example, you're on the train. Picture you're commuting somewhere. You're sitting in your cabin and you are expecting the train to depart shortly. You have a highly anticipated movement, the train departure. And you think, okay, once we have started moving, I will go and grab some snack in the food cart, assuming that it's there. So you sit and wait, you look in the window, and you start seeing the train moving. Though it's the other train, which was parked next to your train, started slowly moving, but because you have a highly anticipated activity, your train departure, you might jump to a conclusion that it's your train that started moving. And based on that assumption, your brain will execute your other decision, the second one, to go and get some food in the food cart. So the brain will start executing motor algorithms for the legs, for the torso, for the arms, to bring your body to the bar on the train. And once you have done that, once you are at the bar, you discover that it's actually closed because your train is still stationary. I know it happens all the time to me, at least, especially on the plane, but that's how our expectations, our perceptions shape our actions. With the body, it's exactly the same situation. Let's say with my students, when I teach the press to handstand class, and press to handstand element, for those of you who are not familiar with this, it's when you bend over, place the hands on the floor, push the floor away, and the legs somehow, miraculously for many of us, get off the floor enough to apart into the handstand. So now, often, if you have never done this before but really want to learn that skill, to your eyes it looks like your legs first got off the floor and start moving sideways. That's what you saw for the first time. That's what you believe into. That's what your eyes told you. Now with this perception, when you try to reproduce this element, you will go down, you will bend over, you will put the hands on the floor, press hard, but nothing happens. The legs are not lifting, the legs are not going up. Well, because you're actually standing on the legs. And while you're standing on the legs, you're carrying all the body weight there. So you kind of can't bring the legs off the floor even by pressing hard. And simply because you believe that it's the legs that must move first, your brain is trying vigorously to activate the motor algorithms for the leg activity, for that leg activity. And maybe you start leaning forward a little bit more or jumping, etc. It might work, but unless you fix your perception, it's not going to work well, and it's not going to work fast. Most importantly, you will spend a lot of time on learning that element. The only thing you need to do here first is to change your perception. When I tell my students that it's actually not the legs we care about, it's the neutral spine, tall, rigid spine in the first place we care about, then the situation changes dramatically. So imagine when you lean down, place the arms on the floor, in the first place you're trying to make your spine neutral, to elongate your spine. You're trying to ask the spinal muscles to lock each vertebrae to one another so that your spine as a structure gets some rigidity. And that rigid spine is going to be used by the legs muscles to hold onto, to pull the legs sideways and up. That is completely different element. And once you try that, you will discover, okay, I lean down, I'm making my spine rigid a little bit, trying to make it neutral. Spine becomes a little bit more extended, and by doing so your pelvis starts getting up a little bit, and because your legs for some reason are attached to the pelvis, the legs started getting off the floor passively without usage of any leg muscles yet. So now we don't really care about the legs getting off, we care about the spine becoming more neutral, more rigid, and in combination with rigid shoulders, we're taking the legs off the floor passively. And only when it's happened, only when your legs off the floor, only after that, we use the muscles responsible for the leg abductions to get the legs with a mild rotation sideways up into the handstands, while still keeping the spine rigid and shoulders carrying that spine in the upright position. And here you go. Here's your element. The same situation happens with all other elements, whether it's squat or deadlift or anything else. If you interpret that element in a certain way, or if you misinterpret that element in a certain way, then you might be training for a very prolonged period of time to achieve that element, and you might not even achieve it at all, simply because of the wrong interpretation, because your perception of that element is not in the correct place. And because it's not in the correct place, you're trying to use motor patterns, motor algorithms, not in the right sequence, and that might produce some injuries even, or produce not the right muscle activation, or inhibit some muscle activation we really need. So that's why we need to develop better perception of the movements. The interesting question, how to do that? How to develop better perception of the movements? It comes down to the same matter. We just need to learn more about the body, more about the body levers, body muscles, more about kinesiology of the body. Also, we need to have basic understanding of physics of lever. It's not that actually difficult. We just need to put a little bit more efforts into learning the base data of the body mechanics. Just like with the body awareness, the information about the body will give you better chances to use your analytical skills, which you all possess, but you just need the right data to assume how exactly the body needs to move. First, you will develop better body awareness by knowing what levers you're dealing with, what objects you're moving, how they need to be moved. And after, based on that, using your analytical skills, using your right assumptions, you can assume, you can perceive that movement correctly. With a clear vision of the movement, you can come up with a very clear idea of the training, which muscles need to be conditioned, which sequences need to be conditioned, and so on. So my message for today, again, try to learn some things about body mechanics, about body kinesiology. Again, we have all the apps available, we have the books, we have the internet, we have ChatGPT even nowadays. So you can easily correct your body awareness or improve your body awareness, improve your perception by possessing that knowledge. And with that knowledge, your training will become much easier. Your analytical skills will be delivering better assumptions, better assumptions will be delivering better outcome, and so forth and so forth and so on. You will get much more development out of that knowledge than out of just training without any knowledge, because training without any knowledge of the body is essentially shooting in the dark. You might get lucky, might not, but definitely without knowledge of the body, any training process will take you much longer than with the body knowledge. It will still require some work, but that work will be easier when the data about the body is in place. So, message for today, again, learn about the body, learn how the body moves, learn the structure of the body, spend 5 minutes in it. And if you still don't get something, if you still struggle with some element, I'm always here to help you. Ask questions as usual. That is it for today, guys. I hope you got the right idea I tried to explain. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for your time. Go enjoy your day. I will see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.